Hey, what is going on, everybody? In today's video, I want to talk to you all about this new game that I play called Marvel Hoard Force. Okay, nice joke, right? But seriously, I do want to talk about my practice of hoarding, but particularly a certain resource that I've been saving. Especially since I cleared Dark Dimension 4 for the first time, because as we get closer to the fall, September, October time, I think that things are going to be changing, and it definitely helps to stay ahead of the curve, especially if you're someone who doesn't spend a lot of money and needs to be as prepared as they possibly can. Now, I'm sure all of this sounds a little bit cryptic, but hopefully you'll stick with it and figure out what I'm trying to tell you. So without further ado, let's get this show started. So we're going to start things off here in the War Store. Now, this is one thing that I think people should really be conscious about when it comes to hoarding their resources. Now, you might see here that I have about 74,000 war credits and a whopping 39,375 elite war credits and counting. So that's something that I haven't been touching for some time. Other than more recently purchasing Longshot out of the War Store for some shards, probably at least until 6-star. We'll see how if I end up farming up to 7-star or not yet, because I'm not getting that far in Adam Warlock anyway, so it doesn't really matter for just now. But this is one of the most premier resources that you can use in the game, because not just for the shards really, but it comes down to orange gear and more recently gear 15 mini uniques like the special. I should probably buy a little bit more of this, but that aside, war credits is something that kind of allows you to buy some of the most required resources in the game. So making sure that as we go closer to September and October, where a level 85 cap is very likely to happen, which means gear tier 16. We do know that actually that orange gear ends, as far as I'm aware, at gear tier 15, and gear tier 16 will be something called red gear. So what that means is probably this will be released along, a lot of this stuff will probably be available primarily in the War Store and in the supply stores, just like the orange gear was when it first came out. Actually, I'm not entirely sure if gear tier 13, I don't remember when War launched alongside orange gear, but it doesn't matter. Anyways, we know that the War Store is going to contain most likely these red gears, the red uniques, whatever is required. Probably we're going to get just brand new superior uniques, but for red, and you'll need to buy that with war currency as well. Now, what else can you do in this War Store is, obviously, I kind of alluded to this, the elite war credits. So when you go to the orbs here, and you check this out, we got the blue gear, the purple gear orb, orange gear 1, and orange gear 2. Now, originally, we only had orange gear war 1, but then eventually, when G15 came out, and a little bit time after that, we got the orange gear war orb 2. So that was an upgrade for 200 elite war credits. You could get G15 minis, and they even enhanced that a little bit while down the road as well, where you get a little bit more. So rest assured, there most likely will be a red gear war orb. For how many credits, I have no idea, but it's probably going to happen. So if you are someone who is about to beat Dark Dimension 4, or has beaten Dark Dimension 4 once or twice, I would definitely recommend hoarding your elite war credits for sure. There's absolutely no reason really to open these orbs after you've kind of gone through Dark Dimension 4, because you're going to get a whole slew of resources anyways for clearing that, and there really is no rush anymore, because Dr. Doom isn't crazy important as he was, I don't know, maybe a couple months ago, but it's not as big of a deal anymore. So I really recommend people to sit on their elite war credits for, and I know, it sucks to hoard, but the more you hoard in certain aspects, the kind of the further you're ahead you're going to get when things matter. So when that red gear drops, when that level cap drops, you're going to be a bit ahead, because when they do eventually drop, and we know eventually they will, they're not going to, use a new currency. It's extremely unlikely. They're probably going to continue using this elite war credits because, frankly, they've been doing it for some time with regards to the other orb. I don't see a new currency coming out. So I think that hoarding this is very, I was looking for a better word, but something that you should be doing, because it's very likely they're just going to add another row down here, and it's going to be red gear war orb. I kind of assume maybe 1,500 points. I don't know what it's going to be. But, staying ahead, saving these is really important. War credits as well. You know, I get the shards that you want, but beyond that, once you start beating Dark Dimension 4, you know, don't really spend on the orange gear in here too much. Now that they have a guaranteed slot in, the uniques anyways have a guaranteed slot in the supply store, unless you're super desperate for something, and I'll admit, I've been spending some war credits on Miasma for Adam Warlock, but beyond that, you know, I'm not really spending my war credits. I'm trying to save as much as I possibly can. That is the most premier resource that you can possibly do. Now, I also do want to talk briefly about raid credits. This is, you could be doing this, but I mean, I'm still buying raid store stuff, primarily orange gear, now that they made this a little bit better value on the price. I think they did anyways, maybe not, I don't know. I think they did, but I'm kind of running low on the superior I say low, 1300 is not low, but it's like maybe 3 characters worth, so I am buying this on occasion, but I do expect that when level 85 comes out, that eventually that the red stuff, red gear, will show up in the raid store as well. So do keep an eye on that. And obviously, you know, you can never have too much gold. But right now, I'm hurting quite a bit when it comes to Infinity Watch. And now, you guys are probably asking, well, how do you know that level 85 is coming? Well, I mean, there was a data mine suggesting that it's going to be red gear, not orange gear. So we can actually take a look in our roster a little bit. It's sometimes hard to see. But if you look really closely on some of these characters, like, for example, let's look at Symbiote Spider-Man or even Gamora here. If you look really closely on Gear Tier 15 characters, you can see a purple outline on Symbiote Spider-Man's armor piece and his health piece, and the other ones are gray. Now, what that means is that those are probably going to be red gear pieces because they're not in the game yet, and so therefore they don't know how to color codify it. And this here, the purple, it could be very likely purple gear, but it could be orange gear as well, because we do know that when you're looking at other characters going from 14 to 15, for example, let's take Black Bolt for example. So he has this purple border here. Now it doesn't mean that you are getting, okay, so actually, you know what, maybe not. It changed a little bit here actually, but we do know that some of his pieces are not gear tier, you know, the highest gear tier armor piece is what I meant to say. So some of these are gear tier 14 pieces and some of them are lower. For example, the armor piece here, this is a gear tier 13 armor piece, not a 14 piece. So that is a bit different there, depending on how many of these line ticks there are. So we can kind of get an idea that, yes, we know that eventually it's going to come. And I'm assuming that this is probably, here Gamora has like some orange pieces here, but then some purple and what looks to be maybe like a blue as well. So the colors are kind of wonky. It doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot, but we do know that this is going to be the last gear tier for orange, and that's also really important. That kind of gives you an idea of what to expect and sort of, you know, how much resources you might need to maintain for your oranges. That's still pretty important. So keep in mind, like I said, when we get to gear tier 16, you're still going to need to equip probably a few orange pieces to these characters to go from 15 to 16, because they're going to use sort of lower gear tier armor pieces in order to go up the other gear tiers anyways. Very few characters, with the exception of like Hela, you know, those characters who have 5 mini unique sets that they need, and I think Bishop is one of them, you know, the ones who have like fully required, you know, like this, they're the only type of characters that are going to, you know, use primarily red gear for that gear 15 to 16 bump. Otherwise, expect people to use orange gear for that. And we can also look to msf.gg. I kind of want to trying to bring that up here, specifically here. So we have a data mine on Doom Raid level 2, or not Doom Raid 2, it's Doom Raid 2. So this is Doom 2, and they have a map actually, but they don't have anything more than that. But what we know is this is completely different from Doom 1 and Doom 1 difficulty 1. So this is a brand new Doom Raid, aka Doom Raid 2. So we have no idea what this is going to be about. We don't know. All we know is the raid map. That's all we have. But my guess is this is going to require gear tier 16. I don't know if it'll require it to enter, but you know, this is going to be the recommendation. Of course, maybe it'll have some blue ISO requirements. It's really hard to say, but we know that eventually that this is what they're gearing up for, and that this is probably going to have some sort of recommendation or requirement to have gear 16 or red gear and level 85. So this is probably what they're ramping up for, I would imagine. dimension come September and October, because that is really what we're looking ahead to. I think very likely because this, I was going to say this time last year, that time last year, back in September, October, which is where we had the release of level 80, and we had the release of Dark Dimension 4 not too long after that, and Doctor Doom. So that's something that we can look forward to. Gear Tier 16, level 85, Dark Dimension 5 down the line, and that's just something that we're gonna have to begin to expect to see. So hopefully you guys are all prepared for that. You're probably not, and don't worry, I'm not either. But this was just kind of to give you an idea of sort of what you could do to just, you know, try to stay a little bit ahead. I know it's hard to do that in games like this. You know, power cores, that might help too, who knows. Power cores is always useful. That's something that we can, well, you know, I always talk about power cores and the usefulness of power cores, whether it's for refreshes or whatever you have to do. And, you know, when Orange Gear and Gear 15 first came out, you know, a lot of people did spend their cores actually to refresh the supply store to try and see if you could squeeze out as many new minis or, you know, uniques or whatever you could possibly get at that time. So power cores is always a useful resource to save. Just depends on how much you want to save, of course, just like everything else. But the war store is definitely something that I can recommend, hands down, is going to be useful for hoarding, specifically these elite war credits above us. So I do recommend saving this. I don't think that is a huge priority, you know, to clear Dark Dimension 4 super fast if you haven't already. And if you have cleared Dark Dimension 4, make sure to sit on this. So I just wanted to bring you this short video on what I think might be helpful for you guys to prepare for the next few months as we get closer on to September, and what likely will be patch 6.0 probably at that point, and the level cap increase from 80 to 85 and Gear Tier 16. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you think I'm nuts? What else do you think that I maybe missed that people could be sort of preparing for with relations to level 85 and Gear Tier 16? Let me know all that down below. Hope you guys have an awesome day, and until next time, stay safe, and I'll see y'all later. Boylon signing out.